Okay, so now I'm going to officially bring out my 2021 NFL first round mock draft. Now, this mock draft is based on what I personally would do as an NFL general manager. I'm not going to try to predict what these teams are going to do, okay? That's way too hard. There are actually no trades in this mock draft because I felt that was a little bit too complicated. This is what I would do if I was the general manager of these 32 teams. Let's start off with the number 1 overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They should select Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback out of Clemson. And by the way, I'll just go over the first, 4 picks. So I have Trevor Lawrence going number 1 to the Jaguars, Justin Fields going number 2 to the Jets, Trey Lance going number 3 to the 49ers, and at number 4, I had the Falcons taking Kyle Pitts. Let's start off with the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, like I said in the past, he's a generational talent. He has great arm strength. He's very accurate. He's very good at reading defenses. He has underrated mobility, and there are a lot of great quarterbacks in this draft class, but I believe that you have to take Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick just because you don't want to live with that regret. If Justin Fields, Trey Lance or Mac Jones ends up being the best quarterback from this class, so be it. I'm not going to take that risk and, just say, okay, I passed on Trevor Lawrence and then years from now I could regret it, okay? And even if Trevor Lawrence doesn't become a top 5 to top 10 quarterback one day, I still believe he can become an above average franchise quarterback that you can win a lot of games with because he's super talented and his floor is super high, but the upside is truly there as well. Justin Fields to the Jets for me, very similar to Trevor Lawrence. He has those elite traits you look for, and his ability to make plays out of structure is definitely very, very good. He's an accurate passer. I think that most people are overthinking Justin Fields. They're trying to, pick apart his flaws, and I don't think he has as many flaws as people want to point out, and I do believe that he would be a significant upgrade over Sam Darnold, at least from a talent perspective. Justin Fields has a chance to become a really good franchise quarterback, and he would be a slam dunk pick for the New York Jets. I consider him a generational talent. Number 3 overall, like I said, I have Trey Lance going to the 49ers. They obviously are moving up to the number 3 spot to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. And this roster is great right now. But the reason why the 49ers to me are not quite the team they could become is because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo or any quarterback on their roster is quite good enough to get San Francisco over the hump. Okay, 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo not be able to get it done when it matters most, and the 49ers arguably were better than the Chiefs, but because the Chiefs had Patrick Mahomes and the 49ers did not, they ended up stealing that Super Bowl away from San Francisco. Trey Lance is smart. He processes information very quickly. He's everything you look for in a Kyle Shanahan type of quarterback. He's a great deep ball thrower. He's able to run the football effectively when needed to at the quarterback position. Got a big time arm. He'd be a great pick. Now, for the Atlanta Falcons, I'm going to say this right now. If Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, or Trey Lance are on the board, you need to take at least one of those quarterbacks. Those 3 quarterbacks are too good to pass up on if you're Atlanta. I'm a little bit lower on Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, so I would probably choose, getting a better player over those guys. That's why I would, target Kyle Pitts. I would, okay? Because Matt Ryan is 35 years old, and while he is aging, I do believe if you put a great roster around Matt Ryan, he can start to win you a lot of football games, okay? And Atlanta could look to add defense right here, but you can address the cornerback position or the linebacker position later in the draft. Kyle Pitts, he'd be an excellent target for an aging quarterback and Matt Ryan. Listen, Matt Ryan is past his prime, so you need to put as many good weapons around him as you can. Kyle Pitts is 6'4", 240 pounds. He's a really good versatile tight end that could end up playing wide receiver at the next level. If you pair him with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, that'd be super duper great. So Kyle Pitts to the Falcons makes a ton of sense. Up next, the next 4 picks, I have the Bengals taking Penei Sewell out of Oregon. I have the Dolphins taking Devontae Smith. I have the Lions taking Jamar Chase. And the Panthers taking Patrick Surtain, the quarterback out of Alabama. Let's start with Cincinnati. Penei Sewell is regarded by a lot of people as the best offensive line prospect since Quentin Nelson. And Cincinnati's offensive line is not very good. And Joe Burrow this past year just tore his ACL. So you now have some injury concerns with Joe Burrow, even though he's an awesome quarterback when healthy. Okay, and a lot of people say you could go Jamar Chase right here. I don't understand that, but I think that it really doesn't matter how many great weapons you have if you can't protect the quarterback. Did you guys not watch the Super Bowl? The so-called next GOAT, Patrick Mahomes, was running for his life, and it didn't matter that he had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce because the offensive line couldn't protect him. Penei Sewell would be a slam dunk pick for the Bengals. He's strong, he's big, he'd be a cornerstone of that offensive line for years. Number 6 overall, I have Devontae Smith, the Alabama wide receiver, going to Miami. If someone like Justin Fields is on the board, I'm moving on from Tua Tagovailoa. But that's not the case right here. Okay, so look, Miami, they have a great defense, a great coaching staff, but they need more dynamic weapons on the outside at wide receiver. They did sign Will Fuller in free agency, but I think Devontae Smith would really complete that wide receiver core. He's a really good route runner, and he'd be an excellent fit for the Miami Dolphins offense. He could be the weapon that Tua is looking for, and I don't think Tua is a special quarterback, so you need to put a lot of talent around him. Devontae Smith makes a ton of sense. The Detroit Lions at number 7, they should take Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. You just lost Kenny Golladay. You just lost Marvin Jones. As of right now, the Detroit Lions have one of the worst wide receiver cores in the National Football League. In order to properly evaluate Jared Goff, you need to put weapons around him, okay? And Jamar Chase, I think he's a tad bit overrated as a prospect, but he's super dynamic. He had a great season a year ago at LSU. You know, he's really dynamic with the ball in his hands. I have my questions, but I think he's a dynamic weapon that really could help out Jared Goff. Up next, Patrick Surtain to the Carolina Panthers, the cornerback out of Alabama. I would love to get Sam Darnold another weapon, maybe a Kyle Pitts if he's there, but he's not there in this mock draft. And I think the Carolina Panthers need about 1 or 2 more pieces to really complete their defense, and they need a shutdown corner on the outside to really make that defense work, okay, and really to complete that unit. So I'm not passing on Patrick Surtain right here. He's very smart. He's very instinctive. He's a ball hawk. He's everything you look for in a great defensive back in the NFL. He does have a good amount of potential. I pick him at the number 8 spot. At number 9 overall, I have the Denver Broncos selecting Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker out of Notre Dame. He's a very versatile middle linebacker that has, in my opinion, the ability to be a Pro Bowl middle linebacker from day number 1 in the NFL. You can make the argument he's one of the 5 best players in this draft. He's super duper rangy. He has tremendous versatility, great instincts. He's a great tackler in open space. And in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, you need game changers on your defense. The Broncos could look to move on from Drew Lock, but I think that because guys like Justin Fields are off the board, you should just look to stick with Drew Lock for another year. I take the middle linebacker out of Notre Dame right here with the number 9 overall pick. Up next, the Dallas Cowboys. I have them selecting J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Dallas has a great offense when their offense is healthy, but defensively, they are a below average unit. So I have them selecting J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn, if he reaches his full potential, he legitimately could be a top 10 cornerback in the NFL. He's that good. I have the Dallas Cowboys selecting him with the number 10 overall pick. At number 11 overall, the Giants, they should select Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver out of Alabama. The reason why is because he's arguably the most explosive player in this entire draft. And if you put him opposite of Kenny Golladay, you know, along with Darius Slayton, that's a really, really good, well above average wide receiver core. I don't think Daniel Jones is the greatest quarterback in the world. So if I have, by my standards, an average to a below average quarterback, I need to put every single weapon around him in order for him to succeed. So I like this pick right here for the Giants. Number 12 overall, I believe the Eagles should take Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. Philadelphia's offense is not very dynamic, and I do think Jalen Hurts has potential, but I don't see Jalen Hurts ever being, you know, a top 10 to a top 5 quarterback. So I think you need a lot of weapons around him to get the most out of him, okay? And so if you have a young quarterback, you need to give him every opportunity to succeed. Rashad Bateman could be, from day number one, the best wide receiver on the Philadelphia Eagles roster. That's without a doubt in my mind. Okay, he runs great routes. He has great speed in the open field. And he could be the number one wide receiver the Philadelphia Eagles are looking for. Okay, the next four teams up are the Chargers, the Vikings, the Patriots, and the Cardinals. At number 13 overall, I have Rashawn Slater going to the Los Angeles Chargers. If someone like J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain are on the board for the Chargers, they'd be hard to pass up on. But I do think that they desperately need offensive line help to protect Justin Herbert. Rashawn Slater is a big, strong, very versatile offensive lineman out of Northwestern. He could be a cornerstone to their offensive line for a long time. It'd be a great pick at number 13 overall. Minnesota at number 14 overall. I have them selecting Jalen Phillips, the defensive end / outside linebacker out of Miami. Minnesota last year was bottom 5 in sacks. Now, Danielle Hunter is great. He's excellent, but you need someone else opposite of Danielle Hunter to really make this defense work in Minnesota. Phillips is athletic. He provides some versatility, and he has some legitimate upside. And I do believe with Mike Zimmer being a defensive-minded head coach, I truly believe he could get the most out of a guy like Jalen Phillips. Now, in the past, I've said Minnesota needs to trade up for a quarterback, but right here, I don't think there's a quarterback on the board currently that's worth trading up for. So as a result, they should take Jalen Phillips. Number 15 overall, I have the Patriots selecting De'Ami Brown, the wide receiver out of North Carolina. Now, before you guys knock the pick and say I'm crazy and an idiot for putting him in the first round of my mock draft, I want to ask you all a question. Have you guys actually watched this guy at North Carolina at all? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know who De'Ami Brown is. So after you're watching this mock draft, turn on some De'Ami Brown tape and then make the evaluation for yourself. Because to me, he's a first-round wide receiver. He can walk in day number 1 to New England and be the most talented wide receiver on their roster. The Patriots need a number 1 wide receiver. They could trade up for Trey Lance or Justin Fields. I have a problem with that, but those two guys are gone. So I have the Patriots selecting De'Ami Brown out of North Carolina. To me, it's a sneaky good pick because a lot of people are sleeping on De'Ami Brown. I think he could be really, really good. Number 16 overall, I have the Cardinals selecting Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State. Arizona has a great offense led by Kyler Murray. And now that they've added J.J. Watt to go pair up with Chandler Jones on the edge, to get after the quarterback, they have a solid pass rush. They have a good offense. But I think that they still could use some help in their secondary and in their linebacker core. And if I have an opportunity to pair Micah Parsons with a guy like, Isaiah Simmons, I'm going to do it more times than not. Micah Parsons and Isaiah Simmons teamed up together have a chance to be an elite middle linebacker duo in the NFL. Micah Parsons, he's a super freaky athlete. He's great. He's great at rushing the quarterback. He's great at stopping the run as well. He's a plug-and-play starter from day number 1, and he make a big-time impact on that Cardinals defense, in my opinion. Okay, up next, we're going to talk about the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Washington football team, and the Chicago Bears. I believe that the Raiders at number 17 overall, I believe they should select Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle out of Alabama. He's arguably the best defensive tackle in this draft class. He's really good at getting after the quarterback, and he has a lot of upside, okay? And he has a chance to really be an impactful defensive tackle at the next level. And the Raiders' defense isn't very good, and they just lost Maurice Hurst, so I believe they should target Christian Barmore. Now, the Miami Dolphins at number 18 overall, they should select Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State, the offensive lineman. Okay, earlier in this mock draft, I had Miami taking Devontae Smith, so they've got a number 1 wide receiver to pair up with Will Fuller potentially, okay? And this could really solidify their offensive line right here. You have a potential star wide receiver in Devontae Smith. Now you have Tevin Jenkins. To me, that's a pretty good first round for the Miami Dolphins of the 2021 NFL Draft. Now, right here at number 19 and number 20 overall, you have Washington and you have Chicago. Two teams that are desperate for franchise quarterbacks. And this is the dream scenario for both teams. Washington gets Mac Jones and Chicago gets Zach Wilson. Both teams have pretty solid rosters with really good defenses and actually pretty good weapons, but they don't have quarterbacks, okay? So I think Washington definitely needs to take a quarterback if someone like Mac Jones is available. And I've been taking Mac Jones. He's an accurate passer. He processes information very quickly. He has underrated arm strength, and he'd be the perfect quarterback for Washington, okay? And Zach Wilson, he provides some playmaking ability for the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears just moved on from Mitchell Trubisky, which was the right move, but I don't think Andy Dalton fits today's NFL, and I don't think he's an effective starter anymore. At least he's, he could be a starting quarterback, but I don't think he's going to scare any NFL defenses. I don't see you being able to win multiple playoff games with Andy Dalton. And look, I'm not the biggest Zach Wilson fan, but why not take a flyer on the guy, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, the head coach and general manager in Chicago. They're on the hot seat. They need a star quarterback that they can sell to the fan base. And who knows, Zach Wilson very well could turn into a great franchise quarterback in Chicago. I worry about him behind that offensive line, but based on where he's at on the board right here, this be a good pick for Chicago. Number 21 overall, I have the Indianapolis Colts selecting Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech. Anthony Costanzo just retired, so you need to fill that hole at offensive tackle. And Christian Darrisaw can come right in day number one and be a starter for them. And one thing we know about Carson Wentz is the book is out on him. He is bad with pressure in his face. So you need to really solidify that offensive line for him. It'd be a good pick for the Colts. Let's talk about the Titans, the Jets, and the Steelers. So the Titans are up next. They're up next at number 22. I have them selecting Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. And this pick right here has the potential to be an absolute steal, just because a lot of people label Caleb Farley as the number one defensive back heading into, this past college football season. His stock has, dropped a little bit, but he's a playmaking defensive back. He's going to take risks. He's going to make plays. He may get burned every now and then, but he makes a ton of plays. He has the ideal size. He has the ideal playmaking ability to be a number one defensive back in the NFL. And Tennessee, they have holes all over their defense. I believe it'd be a great pick. At number 23 overall, I have the Jets selecting Travis Etienne, the running back out of Clemson. I'm usually not one of those guys that likes to pick a running back in the first round, even though Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and the Christian McCaffreys of the world, they've shown that they've been worth a first round pick. I just think you can go cheap on running back, but if you're going to draft Justin Fields or Zach Wilson or whoever you may choose at quarterback in New York, you need to give them a solid running game, because right now the Jets, they have one of the worst running back cores in all football. They need some playmakers at the running back position. Travis Etienne's a home run hitter with truly elite speed. He has underrated power to his game, so I have no problem giving him the football 20 times a game, giving him the ball in between the tackles. And he's shown the ability to be a more than reliable pass catcher, so he'd be a great pick for the Jets. Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC, to me, is a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have an aging offensive line. They need to get younger on the offensive line. They need to start preparing for the future, in my opinion. Tucker is versatile. He's a very solid run blocker and pass blocker. It'd be a great pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 25 overall, I believe the Jaguars should select Gregory Rousseau, the defensive end out of Miami. You got your franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Now I think you should really start to focus on your defense, because with DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault being your wide receivers on the outside, along with James Robinson at running back, I think Trevor Lawrence has a chance to come in and do some good things on offense, okay? Now, Gregory Rousseau is extremely raw. He needs some coaching, but I think that if he develops properly under Urban Meyer, you could really find a special pass rusher to pair up next to Josh Allen, who's already one of the best young pass rushers in all of football. I think it'd be a great pick for the Jaguars. Now, let's go over the Cleveland Browns pick, the Ravens pick, and the Saints pick, okay? Cleveland, to me, has one of the most loaded rosters in all of football. So I think that they need to fill their one glaring hole, and that's middle linebacker. Why not go get Jamin Davis out of Florida, who's a solid playmaking middle linebacker, someone you can use in coverage, someone that has the ability to stop the run, and hopefully round out this Cleveland Browns defense. He'd be a good pick right here in the first round. I have the Ravens selecting Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver out of LSU. We've seen some really good LSU wide receivers like Odell Beckham Jr. and Justin Jefferson come into the NFL and from day number one just be dominant forces of nature. And I truly believe Terrace Marshall could surprise some people if he develops in Baltimore properly and if they use him the right way. At times, he looks like Mike Evans in the open field. He's a big, tall wide receiver that has really good speed in the open space. And the Ravens need a true number one wide receiver. So I think they should go get Terrace Marshall. You pair Terrace Marshall up with Sammy Watkins, Marquise Hollywood Brown, and Mark Andrews. Now Lamar Jackson might have enough weapons to win the Super Bowl, but we'll see. The New Orleans Saints, to me, they need another cornerback opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. And that guy, to me, should be Asante Samuel Jr., just based on the way the draft board has worked out. The Saints have a fairly talented roster already, but they need another cornerback opposite of Lattimore. They could address the wide receiver position later in the draft. I know they just lost Emmanuel Sanders, but they still have Michael Thomas. And like I said, you can get a wide receiver later in this draft. Samuel has great instincts. He has very good speed, and he's a willing tackler. He'd be a great pick for the Saints, especially where they get him. He could end up being a steal. And last but not least, the last four picks of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Packers, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Buccaneers, four teams that are looking to try to win a Super Bowl right here, right now. At least we hope Green Bay's doing that. At least we hope they're not drafting for the future. In my mock draft, Green Bay's going all in to help out Aaron Rodgers. And why not go out there and help improve that defense? Because the defense for years has been the problem in Green Bay. It's never been Aaron Rodgers and the offense's fault. It's always been the defense's fault. Okay? Green Bay needs another playmaking cornerback opposite of Jair Alexander because they're really close to winning a Super Bowl right now. If they fix their defensive issues, they could very well win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, okay? And Eric Stokes, to me, out of Georgia, would be a great pick for the Green Bay Packers at this spot. He's a ball-hawking cornerback with tremendous speed. He plays great man coverage, and he's very good in zone coverage as well. So he'd be a great pick. Number 30 overall, the Buffalo Bills. I have them selecting Najee Harris, the running back out of Alabama. I'm not a huge fan of Zach Moss or Devin Singletary. And at times, the Buffalo Bills offense relied on Josh Allen way too much to make plays for them, especially in the run game. So why not take some of the pressure off of Josh Allen and go get Najee Harris? They do have a couple of defensive holes to fill, but you could do that later in the draft. Harris is a 3-down running back that fits this Buffalo Bills offense. He'd be a great pick. The Kansas City Chiefs, to me, they should select Samuel Cosmi out of Texas. He's a really good offensive lineman that really could help them fill their hole at offensive tackle. They did add Joe Thuney in the offseason, but they still have a hole at offensive tackle. He'd be a great pick right here. And last but not least, the final pick of this mock draft for my 2021 NFL mock draft is Kellen Mond. I have Kellen Mond going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the number 32 overall pick. He's a quarterback out of Texas A&M, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just won the Super Bowl, right? And to me, they're a stacked roster. They still, to this day, have the best roster in all football. So really all they're doing is drafting to fill out the depth on their roster. So to me, they have the ability to take risks and really just, take a flyer on a player like Kellen Mond. And Kellen Mond, to me, could really benefit from sitting behind Tom Brady because Kellen Mond, he's very stiff. His mechanics, to me, at times can get really, really rocky. I believe that Kellen Mond, if he sits for a year or two behind Tom Brady, and if he irons out those issues, he could be the perfect quarterback for Bruce Arians' offense. I know Kellen Mond has problems, and to be quite honest with you, I don't have a first-round grade on Kellen Mond, but I do believe that if he develops properly, he could be more than worth a first-round pick. and he could potentially be a well above average franchise quarterback that makes plays. And listen, Tom Brady is 44 years old. Eventually, you're going to have to play. You're going to have to plan for the future because Tom Brady, he's not going to play till he's 50 years old. Okay, eventually, over the next couple of years, Tom Brady will be retiring. Why not go get a successor in this draft when you don't have a whole bunch of needs to fill in the first place? So that right there, people, is my official 2021 NFL first round mock draft. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.